Our top story this morning, 2 separate shootings happened in Cedar Rapids last night.
And one of them was on the north side of town and the other was on the west side of downtown. Police were called to the Cambridge apartments in the 2100th block of Northtown Court Northeast around 7 p.m. They found one person with non-life-threatening gunshot wound injuries. Police were then called to the 1000th block of 19th Street Southeast around 8:40 p.m. They found one person with a gunshot wound and he is expected to survive. Police can't say if the shootings are connected, but they are believed to be targeted attacks. Coming up on 6:03, developing this morning, another round of talks between delegations from Russia and Ukraine end without much progress.
The fighting continues to intensify with Russian troops closing in on several key cities, including Kyiv. NBC's Jay Gray has more.
Fire and rubble, remnants of towns and villages from attacks targeting Ukraine cities around the clock. A missile taking out this apartment building in Kyiv. Still, those on the ground in the capital city refuse to give in.
We have dozens of thousands of people just in Kyiv, in Civic Guard. And if they will penetrate the city, we will make hell here for them. So they could not take Kyiv.
Americans and other foreign fighters joining Ukraine soldiers and citizens on the front lines.
If this isn't the fight of democracy and freedom against autocracy of our generation, I don't know what is.
But as warriors move in, women and children continue to rush out.
Save us, children, please. Please.
More than 2.5 million escaping, UN monitors saying many literally shell-shocked by what they've come through to get to the border.
They just are scared, and the first thing they're asking while crossing the border is, please tell me that there are no shootings here, please tell me that there are no bombings, do you have these sirenas, please tell me that we are in security.
Security that comes in a place far from home with no idea when or if they'll make it back. Jay Gray, NBC News, along the Poland-Ukraine border.
And NBC News is reporting the president could travel to Europe soon.
And details aren't finalized yet, but the president would focus on the war in Ukraine and reassuring allies in the region. President Zelensky will appear before members of the House and Senate tomorrow as Russia continues to step up its invasion. He gave a similar address to the British House of Commons last week.
All over the world, people are showing support for Ukraine, including here in Decorah. Members of the First Lutheran Church learned they helped raise more than $1 million to support refugees. It's all part of an initiative helping the organization Lutheran World Relief.
6:05 new details this morning. A suspect is now in custody for allegedly attacking homeless people in D.C. and New York City. 2 people were attacked in Manhattan and 3 in D.C., and 2 of those victims have died. The suspect's name has not been released, but he was arrested earlier this morning.
Homelessness should not be a homicide. This was a cold-blooded attack. When you look at the premeditative action of this shooter, it sends a clear and loud message that we need the help from the public.
D.C. police also handed out flyers to the homeless community and city shelters to help warn people of the attacks.
3 young Iowa sisters died in a crash over the weekend. The crash happened in Kansas on Saturday. 12-year-old Juno Clements and her sisters 10-year-old Arabella and 7-year-old Harper were riding with their father. Their car apparently drifted into the other lane, colliding with a semi. The girls were all members of the Johnston School District. The district set up assistance programs for parents and students.
The importance of us listening to children, no matter how young or old they are, listening to them and what they're thinking and what they're feeling really can give us a lot of insight as to how they're doing with processing a tragedy such as this.
The girl's father was taken to the hospital with serious injuries.
It is 6:06 right now. It has now been 2 years since community spread of COVID-19 was first identified in Iowa. Over 850,000 Iowans have tested positive since then, and 9,262 have died. One person who knows the effects of COVID all too well is Tasha Banks of Cedar Rapids. Banks lost her 34-year-old sister Tiara to the virus in November. In the last 5 months, she has started taking care of all 4 of her sister's children.
You know, I gained my sister kids, you know, because I'm going to take care of all my kids, my son and my sister, all 5 of my kids. I'm going to take care of them. But it's just, COVID took a lot from me. COVID, you know, destroyed my life.
To hear her full story, just visit our website, kwwl.com.
New this morning, one on President Biden's high-profile nominees is appearing to gain support, but another is not.
His historic Supreme Court pick is set to meet with more senators today, but the nominee for the Federal Reserve might not make it that far. CNN's Amy Kiley has more.
President Joe Biden is having a mixed week when it comes to his nominees. Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson continues to meet with senators from both parties. A simple majority in their chamber would make her the first black woman on the U.S. Supreme Court.
I think one of the most impressive candidates I've ever interviewed and talked to, that's going to be hopefully moving on to the Supreme Court here soon.
While Jackson appears to be gaining ground, Sarah Bloom Raskin appears to be losing it. Biden wants her to be the Federal Reserve's top banking regulator. But she previously called for the Fed to crack down on bank lending to fossil fuel companies. She's backtracked since then, but some Republicans are concerned.
She has spent 2 years campaigning for the idea that the Fed should be in the business of allocating capital away from carbon-intensive sources of energy. We see what's happening to our own gas prices. Can you imagine having someone at the Fed who thinks we have to make this much worse?
Now, Democratic Senator Joe Manchin says he opposes Raskin's nomination. He has financial ties to the coal industry and says he's also worried about her energy ideas. The Biden administration says it's not giving up yet.
So where we are now is our focus is on continuing to work with Chairman Brown to garner bipartisan support.
The White House probably won't get those bipartisan votes, since 2 moderate Republican senators say they also oppose Raskin. I'm Amy Kiley reporting.
And also in Washington, a convoy of truck drivers and other protesters caused some major traffic delays yesterday. The convoy is protesting COVID restrictions and caused traffic to come to a halt on some major freeways in the D.C. area. Local authorities expecting more road closures as the truckers pass through D.C. and head to Maryland.
6:09 this morning, Iowa's First in the Nation caucus status is once again in the crosshairs. Democratic Party officials are looking to switch up the nomination calendar. The Des Moines Register obtained a draft DNC proposal that would require states to apply to hold their contests first and expand the number of early voting states. National Democrats want to move more diverse and competitive states earlier in the nomination process and favor primaries over caucuses. Former Iowa Democratic Party Chair Scott Brennan is on the committee and says there is pressure to bump Iowa out of first every 4 years, but the calls are louder this time around.
Happened in the 2020 caucuses did not help make our case for remaining first going forward. So we've got fresh work to do. And it's a new Rules and Bylaws Committee. So we need to explain to those folks what our tradition is, why we do it.
The Democrats' Rules and Bylaws Committee has until this summer to make a final decision on the presidential nominating calendar.
Still to come on Today in Iowa, the price for a barrel of oil just barely falling, but still hurting American wallets.
Plus, communities still rebuild after devastating tornadoes tore through central Iowa. Now taking a live look from the University of Iowa campus this morning, it is 6:11. We'll be right back.